All right, so today we're going to talk about GG.1. I'm going to introduce a new word for you called asymptotes, and they come from excluded values. So if we have this equation, y equals a over x minus h plus k, think of hk as the center of the graph. Okay, just like it was the vertex or just like it was the starting point, this is going to be the center of the graph. Okay, these graphs are going to have like dotted lines. That is called your vertical asymptote. And then you're going to have horizontal lines, which are your horizontal asymptotes. Okay, so the horizontal asymptotes come from this k value, whereas the vertical asymptotes come from h value. Okay, and so far we haven't actually drawn the graph of the function, but there's this intersection right there is at the point h comma k. Now the graph could either be in this corner and this corner, or you could have it go the other way. So this is when a is positive. Okay, this is the way the graph normally looks. However, if we wanted to switch it up and make a negative, then we would flip them, and so they would go into the other side. And that would be when a is negative. Okay, the good news is you don't actually have to graph these because graphing them is something you'll do in Algebra 2. However, you still need to be able to identify where the asymptotes are, okay? So we're going to practice that right now, okay? And think of this vertical asymptote, that is your excluded value. So remember how whatever would set the denominator equal to 0, that is the value that is not allowed into the function. So that's why it's excluded, okay? All right, so if we look at this graph right here, our vertical asymptote is at 0, and our horizontal asymptote is at 2, okay? So vertical, asymptote. You know what? Let's just shorten it to VA for vertical asymptote. Because it crosses the x-axis, it's always going to be x equals something. And it's x equals 0 because that's where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, and that's our yellow one. Now, the horizontal asymptote, that will always cross the y-axis, and it crosses the y-axis at 2. Okay. Oops. All right, so, oops. Supposed to be the highlighter. There we go. So that will be where our horizontal asymptote is. So using that, we can try to assemble the equation. We know because it's in the top right and bottom left part between our asymptotes that this a value is positive, but we don't necessarily know what a is. In this class, you're not going to have to figure out what a is. We just need to be able to write the asymptotes, and we could potentially say that y equals, my denominator would just be x because h is 0, and k would be 2, so plus 2. And then we don't know what this is. I'm just going to leave it as a question mark. Okay, let's try that again. So try to figure out what our vertical asymptote is and what our horizontal asymptote is. Okay, our vertical asymptote goes when x is 4 is our vertical asymptote. And I can just kind of look here. That would be when y is -3 is our horizontal asymptote. Okay, and again, my equation, we know that this is positive. I don't know what the top is other than it's a positive number. So if 4 is my number on the bottom, then it would be x minus that. And then this -3 just comes outside. That would be my equation if I were to go the other way. Okay. Here, I have vertical asymptote at x equals -6 and a horizontal asymptote at y equals -1. So what do you think the equation for that would look like? Again, this is positive, and it would be, if I minus -6, then that becomes +6. So x plus 6, and then -1 comes down below. Okay, let's see if you can figure out what the excluded values are and what the asymptotes are. So again, my excluded value is always my vertical asymptote. What would make this denominator 0? All right, so if we have y equals 1 over x plus 2 minus 3, my excluded values are when x is -2, because if I plug in -2, that would make the denominator 0, which means that is also my vertical asymptote. My horizontal asymptote, if I basically ignore that, the equation is right there. It's y equals -3. Okay. All right, let's try one more. What if I have like that? What's my excluded value now? Okay, well, what would make that 0 is when x is 10. Okay. And that means that is also my vertical asymptote. And if I basically ignored this, then my horizontal asymptote is right there. Y equals 2. So remember, excluded value is connected with the vertical asymptote because it's the x values that don't work. Okay, that's all you need to know for GG1. If you have questions, I will answer them when we have class.